Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Eric Devin and Philippe Bargil. The footballing roulette wheel took us for another spin this week, but Liga finally saw their numbers come up and strike gold. We reflect on that and on what has been an excellent week, along with the upcoming Les Bleus fixtures, after the latest headlines. On Friday's early match, Bastia managed to keep 11 men on the pitch for a change, but it wasn't enough as an own goal from Gilles Sioni saw the Corsicans lose at Metz 1-0. Lille saw the season's biggest ever crowd pack the Stade Marois on Friday, but their exploits were somewhat wasted in a scoreless draw against Marseille. Injury Nice travelled to Nantes and scraped a 1-1 draw against Le Canaries in Saturday's early match, while in the multiplex, Lorient kept their slim hopes of survival alive with a last-minute 3-2 win. There were also goals aplenty in Bordeaux as Diego Roland took advantage of a rare start to record a double as the hosts thumped Montpellier 5-1. Angers won 3-0 at home to Guingamp, continue their good form with their fifth win in 6 matches, while Toulouse and Rennes played out a scoreless draw. Monaco's Kylian Mbappé celebrated his first call-up to the French national team with a double to lead Monaco to a 3-0 win at Caen, while Jordan Veretout scored the only goal of the match late on to see Saint-Etienne win at Bastia. Excuse me. Lyon took an early lead at the Parc des Princes, but were unable to hold on as the defending champions came back to record a 2-1 win. In Ligue 2, Lens recorded a crucial win away to Reims, while Brest won for the first time in 4 matches to keep pace with the Saint-Germain at the top of the table. And that's the latest news. But remember, for all the latest headlines, head on over to our website at www.getfootballfriends.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN. We start this week with table-topping Monaco, who proved just how good they really are on Wednesday night. Their superb 3-1 victory saw them eliminate Manchester City from the Champions League. Eric, how big is this result, not only just to the Principality club, but for French football as a whole?
Well, we had seen Monaco achieve a similar surprising result over an English side back 2014-15, but I think this is something very different. I think that the result that they achieved over Arsenal at the time was perhaps not unsurprising, given the naivete with which Arsenal had played, but in comparison to this, I think Manchester City under Pep Guardiola are a much more cohesive unit. They certainly showed that in the first leg, and they certainly showed a level of talent and a level of attacking intent that we hadn't necessarily seen when Arsenal had been defeated 2 years ago. So I think this really is a significant achievement. I think it shows that whereas that edition of Monaco had been rather negative and played on the counter, this edition of Monaco is an entirely different side, playing this 4-4-2 with great aplomb, great attacking intent, and it shows that even in playing an attacking style, that Monaco can go toe-to-toe with, again, Manchester City aren't quite at the level of the 3 Spanish sides, Juventus, Bayern Munich, but, a quality team in Europe. And it shows that the Monaco certainly belong and that the results that they had garnered through the group stage aren't a fluke. They're a result of impressive player development and an impressive tactical plan by Jardim. Something that's evolved and developed over the past 3 years of his stewardship.
Yeah, let's talk about the game first of all. Obviously, we discussed it briefly on Thursday, but it was a very one-sided first half where Monaco really put the pressure on Man City and got those 2 goals that put them exactly where they needed to be on the time, and then maybe sat back a little. And Manchester City made a couple of changes and came back into the game in the second half. Although, obviously, Bakayoko's goal sealed the game. What did you think to how they started the game? And is there questions made on how Jardim maybe should have reacted to Guardiola's changes? Or do you think that it was maybe Man City and a little bit of tiredness on Monaco's part that played into them slowly losing focus in that second half?
I would say it's certainly more the latter. I think that David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne had been pretty anonymous, pretty poor even in that first half. But those two in particular really grew into the game. De Bruyne had a really lovely pass for City's goal, and Silva was more involved playing something that was more akin to a box-to-box role. And I think that's something that we've seen City do really well in the past. This nominally a 4-1-4-1 that it really needs De Bruyne and Silva to be playing at their highest level, to be functioning as box-to-box midfielders rather than merely creative presences. And I think that they simply didn't help protect Fernandinho nearly as much as they should have in that first half. Guardiola got the chances, and they ended up playing more of a box-to-box role, using the pace of Sterling and Sané to stretch Monaco at the flanks. Djibril Cissé in particular had a couple nervy moments. Monaco held on, but I think that, much as they had in the first leg, that Monaco dropped a little bit in intensity. Fitness is still an issue. Whether that's something that's going to change, given how many of these players are looking to have busy international breaks, is something that I worry about. I think it is something that Monaco should take into consideration. They should think about having not necessarily a plan B, but a way to play that doesn't necessarily rely so heavily on stretching play and taxing the stamina of the likes of Fabinho and Timothy Bakayoko, both of whom were superb, by the way. But I think that, again, you can sort of see how that takes its toll on the team, and that they're not as able to cover the forays forward of Mendy and Sidibe, for example. So again, Monaco perhaps even a little bit lucky to escape, given how well City did pick things up, at least in the first half hour of the second half. But I think Jardim needs to learn something from this match in terms of his plan is great, yes, but the other side of that coin is he also needs to have some way to create a game plan that's sustainable for 90 minutes, because we've seen that be, again, not Monaco's undoing because they did progress, but we've seen it make things unnecessarily nervy. I think that the quality that City showed over the two legs meant that Monaco deserved to go through, but probably not only that, should have gone through a little bit more comfortably were it not for these sort of lapses in the last 20 or 30 minutes of the matches.
Yeah, and mentioning back there, Fabinho was absolutely sensational on the midweek. Philip, I'll get your opinion on this as well, because you're probably the only one we've not really heard on from this game. What did you think to Monaco's win in midweek?
I agree with Eric. I thought that 4-4-2 was a very risky tactic from Jardim. That he just wanted to score goals. He basically divided City's 4-1-4-1 into a back five and a front five, with immense pressing for 45 minutes, and Monaco were 2-0 up at halftime, with the game in their own hands. The only problem is that in the second half, what they had to do is not to concede any goals, and Jardim didn't make any changes. They still kept this very risky 4-4-2 formation against an attacking Manchester City side. Now, Manchester City probably should have scored more goals than just one, but there was absolutely no way I could see Monaco scoring a third. I mean, they didn't do anything. They didn't have the ball, and when you don't have the ball against Guardiola, you are, in trouble. Now, City did not score. Missed a lot of good chances, and this is quite worrying at this stage of the competition, and not quite sure what their ambitions are. I mean, if they are even annoyed of getting knocked out, but that goal from Bakayoko basically came from pretty much out of nowhere, and it's only then that Jardim said, "Okay, let's play with a midfield five." It's quite lucky escape, but this is a Champions League. Sometimes you are lucky, and sometimes you're not.
Yeah, and luckily for us, Monaco were lucky on this occasion. Yeah. I want to talk about, Eric, one of the players that everyone's got on their lips at the moment, and that's Kylian Mbappe. And I want you, obviously, because we have watched Monaco reasonably often this season, we've probably seen him more than most. Don't hold back. How good is he, and how good could he be?
I don't think that we would be wise to put any sorts of limits on him. I mean, this is the thing. It's not, he's fast, but he's more than a pace merchant. He's got good touch, good finishing ability, but, he's more than that. He's able to pull out onto the flanks and create space for the likes of Silva and Lamar to cut inside. So he's not just a poacher either. He's someone who understands football in a holistic sense. He's able to fit in well to a given tactical plan, not only as someone who scores goals, but someone who can create opportunities for other players, not in terms of assists or key passes or whatever statistical metric you'd want to use, but just in terms of his position on the pitch and the fact that he creates so much danger that teams have to respect that. And as a result, often are going to begin to have to alter their game plans. I think that goal he scored against Caen, taking the touch to pull the ball back away from Yaya and De Silva and then turning it in from the right side, also from a difficult angle, I think, perfectly encapsulates what he's about. He uses this incredible pace to get by players, but then shows this great touch, great awareness, and great finishing ability to put the ball in the back of the net. The numbers he's scoring, again, there's going to be some criticism, particularly from English media, about the quality of Liga, about the tin pot league. Can you do this? But I think Ousmane Dembele is another player who fits into this category well, is that, despite, again, the French league is not at the same level as the top four leagues in Europe. I don't think that anybody's going to fool ourselves, but it does offer defensive solidity, physical robustness, and something that a lot of aspects that make it very difficult, make it very difficult for young players to succeed. And as a result of that, I think that Mbappe's achievements, along with those of Dembele last year, show that, and how Dembele has again transitioned into having a great season at Borussia Dortmund, show that there is a certain level of quality in France that does translate well into success in these bigger leagues. And I don't think that we should take anything for granted or take anything away from his performances. I mean, again, Connor poor defensively, yes, but the fact is, they're playing a somewhat negative style, and they're trying to sit deep and prevent Monaco from playing on the counter. But the fact of the matter is, Mbappe's talent at this point in time is just so superlative that they don't really have much of a chance watching that match. So yeah, I don't think we should place any limits on what he is. He's earned all these comparisons to Thierry Henry. I think that Henry is obviously a much more physical presence given his height and upper body strength. But in terms of raw numbers, Mbappe's eclipsed what he's done, and I think that he continue to eclipse that. Again, he's someone that needs to be used in a proper system. Could he function as a lone center forward in a 4-2-3-1, for example? I would have my doubts about that. But played in a 4-3-3 or played in a 4-4-2 like he is currently, I don't think that there's any reason to limit what Mbappe can do. I think he has a chance to be one of the world's very best players in the next 3 or 4 years.
I think it's a bit unfortunate, this comparison with Henry, because we're always going to make this comparison, as Henry started at Monaco, then went on to great things. He didn't actually have the greatest time at Juventus, went on to great things at Arsenal. We can kind of make a comparison between Henry being in a Monaco side that wasn't free scoring and high scoring, but he was in the right dispositions, I would think, under Arsene Wenger and with all those players, with Sylvain Wiltord, Robert Pires, and all this French contingent, and it just clicked. Well, this Monaco side is clicking, and I'm not saying it's easy to score goals in this Monaco side, because he is showing what he said was absolutely hilarious yesterday on the media at halftime against Caen. He said he actually missed his control in the action leading to his first goal, just before he does this dribbling skill coming inside Antayaya and Ben Youssef. which is hilarious because he didn't miss control. It wasn't a great control, but it wasn't a bad control either. But the point is, did Ori have the quality of the players of Bernardo Silva, Thomas Lemar, Saint-Germain, and all that? No, we didn't. So comparing, goal scoring records is all very I won't say dangerous, but you really have to take into account how free scoring Monaco are, and probably they probably weren't when Henry was starting. So he is yes an incredibly gifted player, and not just a fast guy. Was a great shot on him or a great head of the ball, because second goal. I mean, we don't talk. We haven't heard anything being talked enough about that second goal, but what a great header that was. But extremely talented. Then again, Monaco free scoring, and would he be doing that kind of thing in a side like, say, Caen? It's all subjective.
I say possibly. How good he is.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I just don't know. So I'm actually looking forward to him moving.
Yeah,
I was PSG.
Hopefully, yeah. I was going to say. I was thinking about this the other day that I couldn't think of a player that is naturally good at both being a centre forward and being a sort of wide attacker for a long, long while. The only other person I can really think off the top of my head is maybe Aubameyang, but I still think he's a better, more clinical finisher than Aubameyang was, especially at this stage. I can't believe how good this kid could be. And I was thinking the other day, do maybe Barcelona come in and maybe someone he usurps one of those top three at some point? Maybe, possibly, he might even go to. He could go really wherever he wants. I think if we should really enjoy the next 8 games and the cup games and the Champions League we've got left with him, because I do fear that someone's going to put a big offer in the summer and we might see him leave French football. But let's hope not. But let's stick with the.
But if there is a big club coming in, be it English or Spanish, and when I say Spanish, I just mean just those 3 clubs, 2 Madrid clubs and Barcelona. And we do hope that first of all, Monaco just don't let him go just like that. We'll say, okay, we'll give you a great big contract, so we get a great big transfer fee, or that PSG joins the race. I mean, we are now in that kind of position where Ligue 1 players are possibly one of the most coveted players in Europe, and selling them need to be sold at a very high price, and we've got two sides that are reasonably wealthy, and we really shouldn't be scared of other clubs taking them. We quite the contrary. We should be wanting them to stay in Liga to make our league more competitive, and I think we're in a good position to do that, which has never happened before, which is great.
I think they're going to take. I think it's going to be about at least very minimum 60 million to take him off of their hands. I think he's going to be a very, very expensive player. But let's focus back on Monaco and the next round, Eric, which some commenters on Twitter are saying is maybe the hipster quarterfinal that everyone will want to watch, and that's the drawing Borussia Dortmund full of a load of young attacking talent themselves. It's a really intriguing tie, isn't it, going in there? And have they got a chance against the Germans, or do you think that maybe Dortmund might have too much, or what do you think?
No, absolutely. I think it is going to be a wonderful tie with a very strong French flavor to it. You've got Guerrero, you've got Dembele, you've got Aubameyang. So Dortmund certainly have no shortage of players that have come through Liga themselves. I think it'll be really, really interesting. I think that both teams play with an attacking intensity. Dortmund are quite a bit more tactically flexible. They've played 3 at the back. They played 4-2-3-1. They've played 4-3-3. They played a variety of systems really this season. And I think that because of that, it'll be interesting to see how these two teams match up tactically. But I think that of all the quarterfinal draws, I think this one, is probably the one that's the hardest to call. I think that we should look at Monaco certainly having a chance against Dortmund, but again, if Dortmund play to their play to their best. If they've got Royce back, if they've got Julian Weigl back, they've got Aubameyang back, then you're going to look at a team that's got the quality to go toe to toe. And I think we might see something along the lines of what we saw against Manchester City. Just teams scoring 3-4 goals in a match and really creating some attacking, exciting football.
Yeah, and Dortmund really aren't famed for their defensive ability at the moment, and someone like Pulisic to come off the bench as well. They're a really exciting team as well. But just to sort of curtail this talk on Monaco, Philip, I wanted to do maybe a slightly more rounded question. That I was thinking the other day about teams like Dortmund, and another one that springs to mind is Atletico Madrid, those sort of teams that have come to the big table of Europe and sort of stayed there in the last couple of years. Is there potential here if they can keep onto their players? Could Monaco join that elite table of European clubs?
I think they're already there. I don't think there's that many clubs that can beat Monaco this season, and that they would really have to get actually stolen half, or maybe even 3/4 of their squad to not be competitive this season. I mean, yes, it does take a lot of hard work and a lot of talent from the whole institution to stay competitive season in, season out. But truth being is that it's basically all about one German side and two Spanish sides, and apart from that, you're in with a chance. I just don't see. Even if a couple of players are sold, and a couple of players will be sold, unfortunately, this summer, I just can't see other sides, getting better and better. To me, the only one that could spring to mind is Chelsea. But to me, the Premiership is so competitive that a lot of clubs will be going for a lot of players, whereas in France there's less competition. There's more possibilities of keeping your youth stars.
Eric, what do you think very quickly? Do you think that Monaco could join those sort of, maybe not the big table in Europe, like Philip's mentioned, of the sort of big teams in Spain and the one in Germany, but that sort of second tier top European side?
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, we saw Atletico Madrid make this transition 3 or 4 years ago when Diego Simeone took over. They were a team that were solid, a little bit underachieving. They had a decent tradition, but a new manager's approach got them to be consistently at that level. Okay, if they sell Mbappe, we can draw parallels there to the players that Atletico Madrid have had to let go of as well. And I think that there is an opportunity for continuity here. Now, maybe we'll have the odd season of dropping off, but I think that, if we look at the caliber of player that they can bring in, now that they're dealing in sort of a higher and higher financial level, that I don't think that there's necessarily a reason to have a drop off, and that Monaco could be a team that's in the knockout rounds of the Champions League with regularity. I think that there's other ambitious projects in France, but to me, I don't think that they've shown enough that they can build. Lyon are going to have to deal with some serious issues this summer in terms of player departure. I don't think that Nice, some of their players are on loan. I'm thinking of Pereira and Belhanda in particular. I don't know that there's injury questions as well over Alassane Playa. Dante's 33, 34. How much he can contribute going forward. So I don't think that Nice are well set up for the future. And then Marseille, I don't think that they've shown they know how to spend the money that they're going to be having. So I think Monaco are well positioned to continue to be in the Champions League, and to be going into the knockout rounds. The more they continue to play well, the higher their seed's going to be, and that's going to help matters as well. Now, they were a little bit lucky in terms of the draw this season, but in terms of who they were drawn against, but their coefficient will only go up, and that'll allow them a better chance to progress year on year, and absolutely the success is sustainable.
Yeah, and that'll be noise to the ears of every Ligue 1 fan, I believe. So we'll move on now to the big game of the weekend, really, in Ligue 1, and that was between Paris Saint-Germain and Lyon. Philip, you were eyes and ears on the ground at the Parc des Princes last night to see Unai Emery's men come from a goal behind to win. What do you think of the team's overall performance in this big game?
It really didn't start very well, and I think a lot of credit has to go down to Pastore as Lyon. Well, Lyon scored from a corner, almost made it 2-0 from another corner. And PSG were back to their usual. It's not very hard to defend against themselves, with Verratti and Rabiot not having the greatest time until the equalizer. But then Passo was able to get between the lines. I thought maybe Genesio had played maybe a too offensive formation in the first half with Tolisso probably not being backward enough next to Maxime Gonalon, which helped Pastore get between the lines, get in between players, finding space for Draxler, for Di Maria, for Cavani. I mean, not playing especially good, but just scoring goals in quick succession. And then you had the substitution where Lacazette went off injured, and basically Lyon were not that threatening. But again, PSG were very risk averse in terms of the way they handled that second half. Not a great deal happened, but the passing was most of the time nonchalant, and some mistakes were being made. And you just can't help to think that if they play like that against Monaco, they'd concede more than one goal, where Monaco being the next game in the League Cup final. So important to beat Lyon, of course, very important, as PSG failed to beat Monaco and Nice at home. But still, not exactly a champion's win, shall we say, unlike Monaco's win at Caen.
And let's focus on PSG first, Eric. And Philip's mentioned him briefly there, and that's Javier Pastore, who was superb and really head and shoulders above pretty much everyone in this game. How good is it to see him back in form and performing at this kind of level?
I mean, it's incredible. I think that Pastore is somebody who's always been a little bit undersold in terms of what he can actually do when he's fully fit. I know that he has this reputation for being sort of a creative player, but I think that there's so much more to the way that he plays. His positioning, his dribbling ability, his ability to track back as well, to play as a central midfielder or on the wing or as a number 10, I think is something that hasn't gotten nearly enough notice. I think back especially to that match against Chelsea 2 years ago when Ibrahimovic was sent off, and Pastore took that game by the scruff of the neck, was all over the pitch playing with a really electric enthusiasm and energy, and that he's been robbed of that in the past year and a half or so because of injury, and that he is the sort of player. I mean, it's no coincidence Emery gave him the number 10. I mean, on form, he has a chance to be the heartbeat of that team. I know we talk about the importance of Marco Verratti being on the pitch, the importance of Di Maria being on form, how Draxler's improved things since he's arrived. But I think that Pastore in that match, it could have gone very wrong for PSG, as Philip rightly mentioned. Lyon were certainly in the ascendancy in the beginning. And I think Lyon got things really wrong tactically. Hopefully we have a chance to go into that. But I think that Pastore's ability to keep possession and to allow things to just calm down a little bit and create some good chances really makes a difference for PSG. I mean, playing that 4-3-3 with Matuidi in that position, and Matuidi's great. He's a willing worker, and I appreciate what he does in terms of being a genuine box-to-box midfielder. But he doesn't have that sort of creative nous, that ability to keep the ball at his feet that Pastore does. And that not only takes some of the pressure off of Verratti in terms of keeping the ball, but gives PSG a little bit more creativity. I mean, Draxler and Di Maria can be creative conduits from the flanks, but they're also, Di Maria is not going to play those slide rule passes along the ground that we saw Pastore do in creating those goals. This is not his game. He's not necessarily a one-touch footballer. He's more someone that's likely to bang in a cross. And so Pastore, just through his versatility, just allows PSG to have not only that amoeba-like energy to spread play, but also to give genuine creativity and genuine individual talent on a level that there's not really another player on the team that can offer that and at that same level. So I think that it's absolutely wonderful, and I think that you kind of wonder at this point, what might have been had Pastore not had so many problems with injury. Would PSG have dropped these points at home in some of these draws, and would they be 3 or 4 points clear of Monaco had he been healthy all season? It's certainly something that begs consideration.
And it's good to see him fit, and hopefully he can stay fit for the rest of the season and we can enjoy him. And that really makes a good build-up for that cup final you've briefly mentioned, Philip, in a couple of weeks' time. It's still a big game. If they've changed formation in this one as well to do a 4-2-3-1 without that extra midfielder, do you think that's something we'll see in the cup final come that game against Monaco, or do you think Unai Emery, with the conservativeness he showed in that second half, might maybe dial it back a little bit?
You know what? I hope not, because Jardim has shown that he's not afraid to play 4-4-2 against the best sides in Europe, and I really don't think Monaco are as afraid as PSG are, because Monaco have nothing to lose in this game. They can win a major tournament, a tournament that PSG has won the last 2 or 3 times. I'm not quite sure, maybe even more. So PSG will have the pressure to win that one, and they will be all the build-up will all be about the side that are champions, have won this time and time and again. And actually, PSG do have this history of winning cup competitions, even when doing not doing very good in the league. I remember when 2008, 2009, PSG were fighting against the drop, but they still made two cup finals. And on the other hand, you've got PSG. It's basically the final of the league, with the 2 league games already being played. And going back to the question, I just hope that 4-2-3-1 is extremely risky to play against Monaco, who play with 4-4-2, lots of pressure. So I would think that a 3-man midfield would be necessary to contain that front 4. When I say front 4, I mean the 2 strikers and the 2 wingers, with Bakayoko and Fabinho going forward willingly. So I do hope it'll be some kind of return to 4-3-3 in that game, with a major defensive work on Sidibé and Mendy.
Yeah, and moving on really to Lyon's performance, Eric, and you mentioned briefly that they got it tactically wrong, and Genesio did change things from what we've seen more recently with the success they had with 4-3-3 and moving to more of a 4-2-3-1 with Tolisso partnering Gonalon in that sort of 2-man midfield. Was that a mistake, and did they also lose a bit of impetus when Lacazette came off as well in the second half?
Yeah, I think basically what this boils down to is, for me, it's not a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. It's a 4-4-2, because Nabil Fekir, I mean, he sees himself as a striker. Whether that's something that he's explicitly expressed or not, it's not. He does not play as an attacking midfielder. He plays as a striker. I know he had played at the tip of a diamond when Lyon had played that 4-4-2 under Fournier, but that's not the style he plays. And he doesn't work, and he doesn't track back in that attacking midfield position. And what we saw that do is force Lacazette to drop back and force Lacazette to drop to give Lyon numbers in midfield to compete with PSG. And that saw Lacazette be overstretched, and it saw him be overworked, and it saw him go off because of injury. I think, he made that he tried to make a tackle on it, but I want to say it was Rabiot about 20, 25 minutes in. And from then on, he was a non-entity. You could tell he was hurting, but Genesio waited until 6 minutes after halftime to bring him off and to bring Sergi Darder on. Whereas, if he had started with a 4-3-3, started with that formation that's been working, bring in Toussaint and give Corentin Tolisso a bit more freedom, not force Lacazette to have to track back because Fekir doesn't want to do the work, then you've got a team that is going to continue to have a cohesive attacking plan without sacrificing the middle of the park. And Lyon just didn't have that. I said this time and again. Corentin Tolisso, Maxime Gonalon are both great players. They're some of the best in Ligue 1. They don't work as a midfield too. It forces Gonalon's not fast, and it forces him to try and cover too much ground, and it also takes away the attacking options that Tolisso offers. And Lyon need to be playing a three-man midfield, whether that's with Ferry in there, whether that's with Toussard in there. I would say Toussard on the balance of recent form, or whether that's with Sergi Jarder on there. Lyon just do not function, whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't work because it doesn't get the best out of their players, and it also forces those wide players to have to do more work in tracking back as well. I mean, Memphis Depay trying to cope with Serge Aurier, please. That's only going to go one way. As good as Depay has been in recent times, and we know that attacking proclivity that Aurier has, and PSG were keying on that. How many times did we see Pastore drifting out to the right, and Depay trying to track back and deal with him? And again, Depay is not a defensive player. He's not going to be able to have that sense of positional solidity that he needs to have to play in that role. And it also places even that much more pressure on Jeremy Morel, who, again, a lovely player on his day, but not the most solid defensively. And yeah, Genesio just got it wrong front to back. You've got the international break coming up, and now you've got Lacazette potentially injured. Hopefully he'll be back, in plenty of time for the matches in 2 weeks' time. But that's a real concern. I'm not saying Lyon would have necessarily gone on and won the match, but he played the team too openly, and also his substitution patterns too. I mean, beyond that, why is Fekir staying in the pitch? If he's, okay, yeah, sure, he's the nominal number 9 if Lacazette's coming off, but he's the poorest performer. Balbuena had probably been Lyon's best performer, and he comes off. Depay stays on. I mean, there's just a lot Genesio has to answer for in terms of this match. On form, yeah, Lyon are tired after the exertions against Roma the last 2 weeks, but they should have offered more competition for PSG. Were they properly set up in terms of tactics and personnel?
So you wouldn't have started a 4-2-3-1 with Tolisso behind Lacazette, for instance, and Touzard taking Fekir's place?
That would work, sure. But Gonalon and Tolisso are not a two-man midfield. I think we've seen them try to play together in that shape often enough this season, and it just doesn't come off. At least not against teams of PSG's quality. Maybe against a Nancy or a Metz. Yeah, sure. They can do a job because Tolisso is not afforded to do that. The other thing too that I think Lyon really missed is Emmanuel Mana. Now, not that I think Diakabi and Young Abiwa played especially poorly, but the passing and the assuredness on the ball Mana offers that those other two players don't, I think makes a huge difference for Lyon. Emmanuel Mana, he's young, yes, but his assuredness on the ball, his confidence, and his ability to link play either with Gonalon or to play passes long out of the back, I think that's an ability that that Young Abiwa and Diakabi don't have. They're more of they get the ball out, an aerial presence. I saw a statistic that between the two of them, they completed 2 long passes off the ground between the two of them, and that's simply not going to do it. That's not a way to exploit the pace of the likes of Depay on the wing and Valbuena to get into space and to force PSG's fullbacks to play deep. And that's another thing too. Maxwell didn't have a great match, but he certainly grew into the game. And as PSG recognized that those long balls weren't coming, he could cheat up and cheat up and cheat up. And we know the way Serge Aurier plays. Lyon just made it too easy for PSG. It was really frustrating for me to see, not only as a Lyon fan, but as an observer of Ligue 1. We want this match to be a thrilling encounter. And it wasn't. I mean, it was pretty dull, to be frank.
Yeah, especially in the second half.
I was actually this is why I pretty much caved and paid for the ticket. I was actually expecting it to be much more competitive than it was, but not really disappointed by the second half because obviously I wanted PSG to win, but I think I certainly wasn't expecting. I was expecting a PSG win, But I certainly wasn't expecting a 5-0 win like we had in previous seasons. So I'm not even sure if that means progress for Lyon because of the reasons you mentioned, the tactical frailties you mentioned. I honestly thought that Fekir is just still not back to his best, and just there's some kind of demotivation about him when he runs onto the pitch that you just don't see in Lacazette or Tolisso or Gonalon or even Valbuena.
Well, it's not even. It's not even. Being back to his best in terms of the player he was in an attacking sense. He wasn't trying. I mean,
no, that's the impression I got too. Yeah.
I mean, I just watched. I had a problem with my internet yesterday. I wasn't able to watch the match live, so I watched it back this morning. I mean, there's an instance, I want to say early in the second half. He's tracking back. He misses a tackle on Di Maria. Di Maria has a long shot, a looping shot that Lopez has to palm away. And Gonalon and Diakabi are yelling at him like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you continuing to follow his run? You missed the tackle. Okay, get back up and keep pressuring on him." Di Maria is not a goal-scoring player, but to let him have a free shot from there with that much space and that much time, I mean, that was, by some measures, the poorest I've seen Fekir play this season. It was really disappointing, the lack of effort he displayed in a match of that magnitude. People had talked about him being a potential candidate for France, and after the performance he delivered against Roma and against AZ, that hat trick about a month ago. But I don't see it. He hasn't stepped up in a match of this caliber the way he needs to if he's really going to get himself back into Deschamps' good graces and back as being one of the best players in Ligue 1 that he had been 2 seasons ago.
He also looked like he didn't really care. There are those types of ball where a player is up against, let's say, a left winger is up against a right back, and he manages to go outside the right back. The ball goes marginally off over the line, but he manages to maybe trick the referee. Then the linesman waves his flag up. And then the player would say, "No, you're wrong. I mean, no way. This ball didn't cross the line. I should be able to be. I should be allowed to be able to play on." And Fekir just doesn't do that. He says the ref says no, the ball's gone out, and Fekir just basically just gives up. He says, "Oh well, all right, too bad." And that's just not the same attitude that the other Lyon players have. Actually, it's not the same attitude every other Ligue 1 players have. Well, maybe at Bastia, I don't know. But it's just giving up, which is really, really worrying.
Let's very quickly sort of briefly, Philip, get your word on the Europa League. Obviously, they got a really good result against Roma, and their draw's not particularly easy against Besiktas. What do you think? Can they get through that and possibly even get to the final?
I would be very disappointed if Lyon got knocked out by Besiktas. I have no idea who's playing for them, but it does.
Yeah, Abubakar's there on loan,
but he's suspended actually.
Yeah, he got sent off in the second leg, didn't he?
So Abubakar aside now, I have no idea who plays for Besiktas now, and I honestly don't really rate the Turkish league. I think it is a hard place to go to, of course, especially these days. And I just think that you can do this, no problem. Well, Eric? No problem. They don't have to work hard, but they can do this.
Eric, what do you think of the draw?
Yeah, I agree. I'd be really disappointed in Lyon if they didn't progress.
Just a tricky trip to Turkey. That's the only problem. Maybe the only hurdle they might have to jump, really. But let's look ahead.
Compare this to Manchester United's trip to Rostov. It pretty much sums up the same thing.
It was more like a parking lot in Rostov more than anything, I think, to be fair. Let's look ahead now to the upcoming week for the French national team, as they are heading to Luxembourg in qualifying on Saturday before they head home to take on Spain next week. We chat about the squad briefly on Thursday, Eric, but there are a couple of fresh faces in that squad, including the newest call-up, Timu Bakayoko, has replaced Paul Pogba, who's had to pull out through injury. How deserved is his place in the squad?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely deserved. I think that, especially with, Luxembourg being a given, and you could take 11 players who weren't picked and beat Luxembourg. I mean, I'm not trying to, bash them too much, but this is a pair of fixtures that he really should look to give more of these young players a chance. And I think that that Bakayoko probably deserved a chance, even had Pogba not been injured. I mean, his form has been absolutely inspirational this season. He's lifted off the boil in a couple of matches recently, but I think we might be able to put some of that down to injury. He's got that same energy, that drive, that physical power that has earned him comparisons to the likes of Yaya Toure in the recent past. Perhaps not the goal-scoring ability, but I think that he's absolutely deserving of that, and I think that he can be a real force. I mean, we've seen that the under-21 midfield, Rabiot, Tolisso, and Bakayoko work really well together, work really well cohesively. And honestly, I'd like to eventually see that translated into the national team. I know that would leave Paul Pogba out, and that's certainly an elephant in the room, but perhaps playing a 4-3-1-2 with Pogba in a free role, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that Bakayoko is absolutely deserving of this chance. Great shout for the Monaco player who's really had to overcome a lot in terms of injury and being left out of the side since his arrival from Rennes.
We might be putting a little bit of a kink into the people that really love N'Golo Kante with that comment as well. But that also shows the talent they've got in that midfield as well at the moment. But Philip, we've sometimes.
Sure. Okay. Well, I just want to say the thing about Kante is I don't know that you can put him and Paul Pogba on the pitch at the same time. I think that he is a wonderfully, great and energetic player, but I just think in terms of what he can offer in attack, he doesn't offer as much as any of the other players that have been brought in. And I think that should Kante be in the squad? Absolutely. I have no issue with that. But I don't know that he's deserving of a place in the first 11 in a given week. I take your point that it's controversial, but I think that playing a 4-3-3, you need to be able to have a tactical versatility and a positional versatility amongst all your players. And is Kante going to really affect the game going forward? Unfortunately, not. And that's what we've seen with PSG playing Rabiot at that base of midfield. I think that works really well. Bakayoko can play that role well, and he can take off on the odd dribble as well. But Kante doesn't offer that. And for me, I think he's someone you might want to bring in with half an hour, 20 minutes left to shore up a match. But is he someone you want to start against top-level opposition? I don't necessarily see it.
It's not really as well, though, is it? Isn't he supposed to be the modern-day Makelele?
Yeah, I think Eric's thinking of more formation-wise with being a 4-3. But yeah, he scored against Manchester United. So
yeah, but it's Manchester United.
Yeah, I was going to say bit of pill for me to swallow at least. Philip, we've criticised Deschamps in the past for maybe sticking by a few too many players. But looking at the squad that they've brought through recently, there's a fair number of young players and experienced players as well. Just looking through Kazawa, Sadebe, Umtiti, Kimpembe, Mondi, Rabiot, Lemar, Bakayoko, Tolisso, Thauvin, Mbappe, Dembele all have under about, I think the most any of those have got is 6 caps so far. So with the amount of great young players that are coming through in France, is it really refreshing to see Deschamps start to bring them into the squad and start to meld them into what could be a really exciting team heading into the World Cup and beyond?
We could say that. There's one position I'm a bit disappointed with this list. It always seems to be the same guys. It's okay. Lois is the undisputed number 1. Do we really need to call him? Well, actually, we are playing Spain, so yeah. Do we really need to call him up? And then you've got Cousin Areola. Cousin never gets to play. Areola, we know what he's like. He's not international standard yet. I'd say give some young guy like Lafont chance against Luxembourg, just to say, okay, this is not funny. This is a serious game. Of course, it is a World Cup qualifier, very important, but it's not it's not exactly world class opposition. So give some Ligue 1 youngster a chance to prove himself and play for and have a national cap for France. It's not going to happen for Costil. I just don't really see the point in taking three goalkeepers in all honesty, and I just don't see the point in having Areola in this squad. Apart from that, I do have that Kimpembe, players like Kimpembe, Mendy. Actually, CDB last time he played, he didn't play very well. I do hope that Kimpembe and Mendy get at least 45 minutes out of those 2 games. Same goes for Lemar and Rabiot and Tolisso. I wish I would very much like Tolisso to be played as a second striker in a 4-2-3-1. Just start Mbappe against Luxembourg. Just let the guy have some fun. Just play him between I don't know, between Thauvin and Dembele. That would be great fun. Just so youngsters enjoying themselves. It would be almost like an under 20 game in a World Cup qualifier, in a senior World Cup qualifier, which would be pretty amazing.
So,
but, you know,
Philip, let me get your. I've had quite a few debates with Jeremy Smith, Muhammad Ali, Lana on Twitter about this.
I think I read that.
Does Thauvin deserve it?
Yeah. No, I mean he does have some kind of talent, and he's a good right winger, and we are quite a bit lacking in that. And Dembele didn't really prove himself. I want to say it's almost too friendlies. Of course it isn't, but I think there's no harm in him being called up. And well, he has been one of Marseille's better players, yeah.
But okay, here's the thing: he's 24.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, yes, that's young, but the fact of the matter is,
compared to some.
Well, but you've got Kingsley Coman, you've got Ousmane Dembele.
Yeah,
I
meant compared to a guy like Mbappe, yeah, that's not so young anymore.
But this is the thing. I mean, if we're looking at France as being able to develop a team that is, going to compete, going to have all these players. Say if you've got, maybe Griezmann as being your senior player, looking forward at Russia 2018 and the Euros in 2020. To have all that set of players that are born between 98 and 91, is Thauvin really the player you want to be looking at in terms of a developing play? I'm talking about phasing out the likes of Payet, the likes of Matuidi, the likes of Bakary Sagna, to get a younger squad. I don't necessarily know that the Thauvin is deserving of. He's deserving of a look in, sure, but is he really going to be part of France's team going forward? I mean, given how much young talent there is here, I mean, you think about some of the young players that aren't being called up that the likes of them that could be important in this team in the near future. I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily see it. I mean, Maxime Lopez is another one that that could potentially figure by the time 2020 rolls around. I personally don't see what point there is in bringing in Thauvin, other than he's a Marseille player, and it's a nod to, I don't know, to Marseille fans' pressure or whatever.
To be honest, I'm not really sure what Dimitri Payet is doing here is so deserving. I mean, he spent so many. Yeah.
Valbuena, it should be the player that gets called in. He's been.
I agree.
Brilliant all season.
I find it quite amazing because Deschamps has his men, shall we say, his stalwarts, and Payet did wait for so long to get his first call up under Deschamps, and now it's almost like he's one of Deschamps' stalwarts now, and one of the main reasons why he's being called up, because I would say actually Thauvin is more deserving than Payet, and I wouldn't even take Payet. But I think you're thinking about this as more as a long-term strategy for. Giving youth its chance, and that Thauvin doesn't necessarily fit in the Lemar, Tolisso, Dembele, Mbappe mold, and I honestly believe that Thauvin doesn't really have much of a chance of making that 23 squad for Russia, and that it's more a bit like if we remember. A bit like some kind of the Johan Miku, Vikash de Rasa mold, where they'll make a couple of caps, 5, maybe 10, between 5 or 10, maybe even less, and just never be quite close to the squad. Just this being in quotation marks, 2 friendlies. Deschamps just taking someone who's just playing well, and not necessarily thinking about strategy and saying, okay, you've got such group of players that are experienced, such group of players that are not experienced, and need to get experience with French football. I'm not really I'm not really doubtful of Tovan making the rush as a squad for Russia, to be honest. But
Well,
he does deserve it actually from what he's done in the past few months. So.
I just think that France should be looking at this as that World Cup is theirs to lose.
I agree. Yeah,
they pretty much already qualified. Their toughest match away at Holland, they won. And I mean, I know they had that nervy draw earlier in qualifying, but they're in great position to qualify. It would be a huge surprise at this point if they didn't qualify. So,
just very quickly, Eric, who would you have in Tovan's place then if you were picking from this point?
Valbuena. I think that, look, this is the thing. Valbuena does not deserve to be a part of a starting France 11, but he's shown time and again with Lyon this season that even if he's not starting, he's mentally ready to come off the bench, to affect matches, and to be really effective even in 20 or 30 minutes. And this is something that I don't think is present in many other players that are in that France squad. Ability to come on and genuinely affect a match, whether it's through free kick, whether it's through dribbles. Valbuena really has that, and he's also shown he's, even at 32 years old, he's still mentally ready to affect a match. And that's something that I think, okay, yeah, he's going to be 33, 34. I'm not sure when his birthday is by the time that World Cup rolls around. But
I think he will be 33. His birthday's in September. I've just checked that for you.
It's the point taken. But to have a player come off the bench and affect a match like that's not a weapon that Deschamps necessarily has in any of these other players. Maybe you have that in Coman, but Coman's more of an orthodox winger. He's not someone that's going to be able to get at players with the ball at his feet. Maybe that's Dembele, but I don't think. Do you want to? If you need to turn a match around in the World Cup, Dembele is a great player, but you really want to be trusting that to a 21-year-old? I don't know. I think Valbuena on current form, even factoring another year of wear and tear on his body, deserves a space in this team, for that level of experience and for that ability to change a match off the bench.
I'm going to actually disagree and put the other voice in this question, in the sense that I think that, yes, Valbuena's had a terrific season, but is he really someone you need to look at now at this stage, especially in two games that are, like we've said, essentially friendlies? I'm not so sure. Tovan, does he start for this team? Does he make the 23? Maybe not, but if he shows the form that he did at least earlier in the season, and he can replicate that and show the maturity he started to show this season as well, he's maybe possibly an option for them, at least, especially at his age. And I also think, and I think it's a good point to make, looking at the players' ages of the majority of them. I mean, the oldest players I'm looking at really, for the future at least, is Antoine Griezmann and possibly Pogba at 24, 25. That this is really a golden generation of French players, similar to what we saw at the time with both Spain and Germany in those cycles where they brought everyone in at the same time and allowed them to get those experiences together. I think that's the way they should go. I think that's the way they're looking at going. And I think, in all honesty, and I'm maybe being a little bit harsh here because he has been terrific, and it's nothing to do with his form. I think putting Valbuena in the squad, even though he does make a difference off the bench, it might be a little bit of a backward step in terms of developing all these players to come through at once as a cohesive unit. But that's my 2 cents.
I always thought he was quite unlucky, and that he got the wrong end of the sex tape scandal with Benzema, and that he probably I don't know, that he's probably harshly judged by this scandal and not being as fair shot as the other players in France, at least.
Absolutely. And everyone over here in England is just looking jealously at every single one of those players and wishes that... have any of them got English passports or English parents or visited England at any point that we can steal? If only we could nationalise some of them ourselves, but never mind. That's all that we have time for this week. My thanks to Philip and Eric, and for all of you listening at home. We will have no preview show on Thursday because of the international break, but we might have a little bit of a special show for you this time next week, so do tune in to us again then. A bientôt and goodbye.